Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're doing a deep forensic dive into a really high-stakes decision for any U.S. expat, revoking the Foreign Earned Income Exclusion. Now, it sounds simple enough, right? But if you make one wrong move here, you can trigger one of the most punishing rules in the entire tax code, the 5-year lockout. So let's break down exactly how it works, and more importantly, how to avoid the hidden traps.
All right, here's the plan. We're going to start with the Section 9(1) election itself. What is it? Then we'll get into how you formally revoke it, and the serious consequences that follow. We'll also uncover a nasty surprise called a deemed revocation, and finally, we'll walk through the very narrow path to getting the benefit back early, which means asking the IRS for permission. Let's get into it.
Okay, first things first. Let's get grounded in what we're really talking about here. This is the Foreign Earned Income Exclusion under Internal Revenue Code, Section 911. To really understand the danger of losing this benefit, you've got to appreciate just how powerful and, frankly, how permanent it's designed to be.
So as you know, the U.S. taxes its citizens on their worldwide income, doesn't matter where you live. Section 911 is pretty much the most important relief valve for that. But here's the kicker, and this is absolutely critical to remember. This amazing benefit is not automatic, not at all. You have to actively and formally elect to take it.
Now, the process for making this election seems pretty straightforward, but you better believe the IRS is incredibly strict about it. You got to be a qualified individual. You file a Form 2555, but here's the part that trips people up. Right from Treasury Regulation 1.911-7, you must file it with the tax return for the very first year you want the exclusion to apply.
And this is the heart of the matter, taken straight from the code itself. Once you make this election, it is sticky. It's like flipping a switch that stays on. It automatically applies to that year and every single year after that, unless, and this is a big unless, you deliberately take an action to revoke it.
So, if the election is basically permanent by default, how do you turn the thing off? Well, it definitely doesn't happen by accident. If you're going to formally revoke it, it has to be a deliberate, intentional, and documented action.
And here we can see the exact mechanism spelled out. The regulation is crystal clear about this. Treasury Regulation 1.911-7B1 tells you exactly what to do. You can revoke the election by filing a very specific statement with your return for the year you want it to stop.
So let's be really clear on this. This is an affirmative action. You can't just forget to claim it. You have to physically attach a statement to your tax return for that first year of revocation. And you have to explicitly tell the IRS, I am revoking the Section 911 election. Once you do that, your choice is effective for that year and all future years.
Okay, so what happens the moment you file that statement? This is where we get to the really severe consequence. The danger in this decision is that it is a very long-term commitment, whether you realize it or not.
The second you revoke, bam! You are hit with a 5-year ban. You are prohibited from re-electing the exclusion. And this isn't some informal policy or a cooling-off period. It is a hard and fast rule written directly into the Treasury Regulations.
And here is the precise, unforgiving language from the regulation. This is not just a delay, it is a punitive statutory bar. And notice that very careful wording, until the 6th taxable year following. That little phrase is everything. It makes the decision to revoke, in reality, a 6-year commitment. You have the year of the revocation plus the 5 subsequent years. You are well and truly locked out.
Now, this is where our forensic review gets really interesting. That formal, intentional revocation we just talked about, well, it's not the only way to trigger this 5-year lockout. Oh no, there is a much, much sneakier way it can happen.
This is the big one. This is the hidden trap. It's a latent liability that can catch even the most seasoned tax professionals completely off guard. You can trigger this entire lockout mess without ever filing that formal revocation statement.
And there it is, in black and white, straight from an internal IRS memo. It turns out the regulations we looked at, well, they don't list the only way to revoke. If you take an action on your return that flat out contradicts the exclusion, like claiming a foreign tax credit on the exact same bucket of income you excluded under Section 911, the IRS says, guess what? You just revoked. They call it a deemed revocation.
This comparison just lays it all out, doesn't it? On the left, you've got the formal, intentional act. You're telling the IRS what you're doing. On the right, you've got the unintentional one. But here's the bottom line. Whether you tell the IRS you're revoking with a written statement or your actions on your tax return tell them for you, the result is absolutely identical.
the 5-year lockout begins.
So, you're stuck in the lockout. Is there any way out? Is there any hope? Well, yes, but it is an incredibly narrow path. You have to formally petition the IRS commissioner and ask for special permission to re-elect early.
The only way to do this is to request a formal private letter ruling. And thankfully, Treasury Regulation 1.911-7b2 gives us a roadmap of what the IRS is looking for. And what are they looking for? Essentially, they want to see a major, objective, life-altering change in your circumstances, something like moving back to the US for a significant period of time, or moving to a new country with a totally different tax system.
And this private letter ruling is just a perfect real-world case study. Check it out. A taxpayer revoked their election when they moved back to the US. They lived in the States for over 3 years, then moved abroad again. Because that period of U.S. residence was a significant change, one of the factors right there in the regulation, the IRS agreed to let them re-elect the exclusion early, before the lockout was technically over.
Okay, let's bring this all home. Let's distill everything we've covered in our deep dive through the code and the regs into a final review, especially for the practitioners out there.
Look, here are the 5 things you absolutely, positively have to burn into your brain. Number 1, the election is sticky. It's on until you turn it off. 2, revoking is a 6-year decision, minimum. Don't forget that first year. 3, the deemed revocation trap is very real, so you have to watch out for those foreign tax credits. 4, the only way out of the lockout early is a formal private letter ruling. And 5, to get that ruling, you have to build a rock-solid case showing a significant change in facts and circumstances.
And this really is the final question, isn't it? After all this, why would anyone ever take this risk? Well, sometimes revoking is actually necessary for tax optimization. Think about expats in super high-tax foreign countries. Sometimes it makes sense to forego the exclusion just to claim foreign tax credits, which might actually result in a lower U.S. tax bill. But you must always weigh that potential short-term gain against this significant, long-term, and very unforgiving risk.